Leaked messages have just surfaced, revealing that Aston Martin may be planning the most audacious move in modern F1, targeting Max Verstappen's race engineer to destabilize Red Bull from the inside. This isn't a routine hire. This engineer controls the real-time feedback loop that has helped Red Bull dominate the last several championships. Losing him could shift the balance of power in 2026 before the first race even begins. The leaked chats suggest coordination and strategic planning that hasn't been reported anywhere else, hinting at alliances, unseen tactics, and moves that could catch Red Bull completely off guard. Later in the video, you'll see details no one else has uncovered, exposing how this single move could ripple through Red Bull, Verstappen, and the entire F1 grid, changing the championship before anyone expects it. Aston Martin's latest strategic maneuvers have created an undercurrent of tension across the Formula One paddock. At the center of this unfolding story is Gianpiero Lambiase, Max Verstappen's trusted race engineer, whose influence on Red Bull's operations is immense. Leaked chats suggest that Aston Martin is attempting to lure him into a senior leadership role, potentially giving him authority over team operations and development for 2026. This isn't just a hiring move, it is a calculated strategy to acquire a key element of Red Bull's championship-winning formula, raising immediate alarm among competitors and insiders alike. Lambiase's role at Red Bull goes far beyond technical expertise. He has served as the critical link between Verstappen's driving instincts and the team's strategic execution, interpreting feedback, adjusting setups, and guiding split-second decisions during race weekends. His knowledge is a blend of technical skill, experience, and intuition, an asset that cannot be replicated. Aston Martin's interest in him, if successful, would effectively transplant this unique operational capability into their own team, potentially giving them a shortcut to the systems and processes that have kept Red Bull dominant for years. The significance of timing cannot be understated. Red Bull is in the midst of integrating its 2026 Ford Power Unit while also preparing for sweeping regulatory changes that will redefine technical and operational strategies. Any disruption in the team's inner circle, particularly the departure of someone like Lambiase, could create subtle yet critical misalignments. These might not manifest immediately, but even a slight breakdown in communication or strategic interpretation could cost Red Bull fractions of a second on track, which in modern F1 translates to lost races and potentially lost championships. Aston Martin's broader strategy appears to be methodical and far-reaching. Sources indicate that the team has been assembling a nucleus of Red Bull-aligned talent, technical experts, strategic advisors, and key engineers with the goal of not merely improving performance, but directly challenging Red Bull's dominance. Lambiase's potential addition would not be an isolated gain, it would complete a network capable of influencing race strategy, development priorities, and operational culture, essentially creating a mirror of Red Bull's winning formula within a rival team. The leaked chats themselves provide a tantalizing glimpse into this plan. They reportedly include discussions of responsibilities, scope, and potential influence over strategic decision-making, emphasizing that Aston Martin's intention is not short-term. Instead, it is a carefully orchestrated move designed to gradually shift Red Bull's operational intelligence, knowledge, and workflow into their own ecosystem. The messaging suggests that Aston Martin has been thinking months ahead, planning a transition that maximizes both knowledge gain and strategic disruption without overt confrontation. Personal factors also play a critical role. Lambiase has reportedly been considering reduced travel and more balanced commitments due to family circumstances, which makes Aston Martin's offer particularly attractive. By providing both influence and flexibility, Aston Martin could secure loyalty and commitment in a way that challenges Red Bull's retention strategy. This human element adds depth to the story, showing that this is not just a tactical move in the abstract, it involves real people making life-altering decisions under high-stakes pressure. Finally, the implications extend beyond Red Bull. A successful acquisition could alter the competitive dynamics of Formula One for 2026 and beyond, affecting race strategies, technical development, and even the psychological confidence of key drivers. Teams across the paddock are already taking note, monitoring both Aston Martin and Red Bull closely for shifts in structure, communication, and performance. What has been revealed in these chats may only be a fragment of a larger, ongoing strategy, one that could reshape the hierarchy of the sport in the years to come. The tension is tangible, the stakes are unprecedented, and the world is watching to see whether Red Bull's fortress can withstand the internal pressure building against it. The leaked chats provide more than just evidence of initial discussions, they reveal Aston Martin's calculated strategy to influence Red Bull from within. Sources indicate that the messages outline potential responsibilities for Lambiase, including oversight of race day operations, integration of feedback loops for Verstappen, and even advisory input on 2026 car development. The conversations suggest a plan meticulously crafted to maximize Aston Martin's gain while minimizing disruption to Red Bull's perception, ensuring that the move remains invisible until the effects are felt on track. One of the most alarming aspects is the specificity in these messages. They reference Verstappen's preferred communication rhythms, the timing of setup adjustments, and the exact decision-making sequence used during critical phases of a race. This is operational intelligence that cannot be replicated through observation or data analysis alone. It is embedded knowledge developed through years of collaboration between Verstappen and his engineer. Aston Martin targeting this knowledge demonstrates an understanding of the human element as much as the technical one, suggesting a strategic extraction rather than a simple recruitment. The leak also hints at a deliberate timeline. Aston Martin appears to be positioning the engineer for a transition that coincides with Red Bull's most sensitive development periods. With the integration of the 2026 power unit underway, any absence or even distraction could subtly disrupt workflows, delay data interpretation, and create gaps in decision-making. By timing the approach strategically, Aston Martin could amplify the impact of the hire, creating operational vulnerabilities at the precise moment when Red Bull can least afford them. In addition, the chats suggest Aston Martin is employing a multi-layered strategy. They are emphasizing discretion, gradual integration, and building trust before formal negotiations, indicating that the move is as much psychological as operational. The aim appears to be not merely acquiring a top engineer but securing influence over the operational processes that have historically enabled Red Bull's dominance. This could allow Aston Martin to preempt strategies, anticipate race decisions, and even calibrate their car setups with insight that was previously inaccessible. The implications for Red Bull go beyond engineering and strategy. The engineer acts as a stabilizing force in the relationship between Verstappen and the team. His departure could unsettle communication dynamics, erode confidence in real-time decision-making, and create subtle inefficiencies that are difficult to detect externally. The leaked chats make it clear that Aston Martin understands the magnitude of this influence and is leveraging it as a potential competitive advantage, turning human capital into a strategic weapon. Moreover, the partial nature of the leak intensifies the suspense. Only fragments of the full discussion have surfaced, leaving gaps that allow speculation about the full scope of Aston Martin's plan. These missing pieces create uncertainty not just for Red Bull, but for the entire paddock. Competitors are left guessing about the depth of knowledge transfer, potential timing of moves, and the full extent to which Aston Martin could capitalize on this intelligence, increasing tension and intrigue across the championship landscape. Finally, the broader consequences of the leak extend beyond a single personnel change. It signals a shift in Formula One's strategic approach where information, trust, and human capital are as critical as car performance. Aston Martin's move, as outlined in the chats, could reshape competitive dynamics before a single lap of the 2026 season is completed. Red Bull faces not only the challenge of maintaining performance but also of protecting the core operational knowledge that has made them untouchable. The paddock watches, aware that the narrative unfolding from these leaks could redefine the championship battle and potentially alter the very structure of team dominance in the coming years. The real twist emerges when considering the broader strategy implied by the leaked chats. Aston Martin's approach is not merely about hiring a top engineer, it is about undermining Red Bull's operational core. Sources suggest that this move is part of a carefully orchestrated plan to replicate Red Bull's competitive intelligence and neutralize its edge before the 2026 season even begins. By integrating a figure who controls the real-time feedback loop between Verstappen and the car, Aston Martin gains more than knowledge. They acquire insight into decision-making processes, timing, and psychological nuances that have been key to Red Bull's dominance for years. Timing intensifies the threat. Red Bull is simultaneously integrating a new 2026 power unit and adapting to regulatory changes that will redefine technical parameters. The engineer in question is central to ensuring these transitions are smooth, translating Verstappen's instincts into actionable strategies. Any shift in his loyalty or even a distraction caused by recruitment discussions could introduce subtle inefficiencies. The competitive advantage Red Bull has enjoyed could start to erode before the first race of 2026, giving Aston Martin a head start in preparation and strategic execution. Beyond technical knowledge, the psychological dimension cannot be overstated. Verstappen and his engineer share a relationship built on years of trust, allowing split-second decisions that determine race outcomes. The leaked chats indicate that Aston Martin recognizes the value of this human connection and is positioning themselves to exploit it. Even the perception that this bond may be compromised could pressure Red Bull, causing hesitation or miscommunication during critical moments. In Formula One, where milliseconds define success, this subtle disruption could translate to lost points and shaken confidence. The leaks also hint at a potential network effect across the paddock. While Aston Martin is the primary beneficiary, other teams may gain indirectly by observing the internal tension within Red Bull. When operational cohesion is disrupted, errors may propagate beyond the team's control, providing strategic advantages to competitors even without direct collaboration. This transforms a single engineering move into a multi-layered competitive weapon, where influence and intelligence begin to shape outcomes off the track as much as on it. Operationally, the stakes are massive. The engineer targeted by Aston Martin is deeply involved in translating performance data into real-time decisions, calibrating energy deployment, tire management, and setup adjustments that directly affect lap times. The leaked chats suggest Aston Martin is not only seeking this knowledge but also planning its integration into their own systems to maximize their 2026 readiness. If successful, they could compress years of developmental learning into a single off-season, potentially leapfrogging Red Bull's advantage and redefining competitive expectations in the sport. The human and political implications add another layer of complexity. Losing such a critical figure could create internal friction within Red Bull, disrupting trust networks and forcing rapid reorganizations. The team might respond with internal adjustments, but rebuilding the synergy between Verstappen and a new engineer is nearly impossible in the short term. Aston Martin's strategy, therefore, capitalizes on both technical and psychological vulnerabilities, demonstrating an understanding that dominance in F1 is as much about people as it is about machines. Finally, the broader significance of this leak extends beyond Red Bull or Aston Martin. It illustrates a new era in Formula One strategy, where intelligence, influence, and the management of human capital are as critical as car performance. The paddock is watching closely, aware that if Aston Martin successfully executes this plan, it could shift the balance of power for 2026 and beyond. Red Bull's previously unassailable structure faces a potential fracture not from a rival on track, but from a quiet, calculated campaign targeting the very core of their operational excellence. The stage is set, the players are in motion, and the consequences could define the championship long before the season even starts.